My community is the deaf community. I grew up, again, with deaf parents, so I'm a coder. I'm a child of deaf adults. So the communities with which I serve and participate is the deaf and the hearing. Growing up, I've always seen my parents be very intent about worshiping God, but it was always limited. They never had a complete access to God and a relationship with God. So I've always grown up interpreting. But as an interpreter, there's a huge difference between understanding the gospel through an interpreter as opposed to a one-on-one on a person who understands the deaf culture and the language. And all that being said is to bring us back as to why Hands for Christ Community Church is here. Because the service is done all in American Sign Language. There is no speaking. It's the pastor of the Hands for Christ Community Church, I do not speak at all. I teach and preach. I expound on the scriptures because for most deaf people, even when they're being asked to read the Bible, they don't understand it. English is not, for the most part, deaf people's first language. So when I've taken all of that experience together, I began to sense the calling that God had given me the ability for well over 40 years in the church to stop interpreting and be the pastor for the deaf. Most of the time, as an interpreter, we would never be able to put theology into the signs that we would do. For example, if we're talking about Daniel in the Old Testament, and most of the interpreters would just spell it and they would just go Daniel, D-A-N-I-E-L. But that's not who Daniel is. There's a connection to there. So in that, we give it then a sign name. And it's all within the linguistic features that one would have in sign language. So when we did Daniel, because he was, this is the sign for lion. So we did Daniel. Then what happens is now they have the connection. It isn't just a name. That could be anybody's name. It could have been my next door neighbor's name, but that's not who we were talking about. We were talking about Daniel. Another one that comes up so much is Christ. There are different beliefs about Jesus Christ, but the one that we espouse, the theological one that we espouse, is that he has risen. So you will find in some churches, the sign for Christ is going down here, which means king, but that's not who he just is. And it also indicates that he was just left here on the earth. And we know that that's not true. So theologically, to be theologically correct, he has risen. So we sign Christ. So we import the theological background within the sign all at one time so that they get to understand that. It just makes it so much clearer for the deaf. So we here at Hands for Christ Community Church can do that.
I fell in love with Jesus. I've gotten to know Jesus much better. And now I feel I have a relationship with Jesus. I found God and Jesus here. And I feel so much more at home here.
We now service about 41 people in our congregation and 8 children. Most know sign language. Some are hearing people who are in the process of learning sign language. And we are growing. We're growing in, a lot of it is by word of hand, if you could put it that way, because deaf people are going and telling other deaf people to come, and they say it's different. It's not interpreted. She doesn't speak, she doesn't speak. And to be able to stand on the vision that was given to me, which is to make sure that services were done in American Sign Language, was the biggest commitment that I needed to be faithful to. And so far we've kept to it, and God willing, we will keep to it.
I was so inspired that we have a deaf church. I just thank God for allowing me to better understand His Word and what it means, and for the purpose of life that He wants me to live. And I'm so inspired. I can't imagine, if I didn't have this church, it would be useless for me. I would still be a whole mess. My kids would be a mess. But, God just has that knack of doing things, and I'm just very grateful for this church. And I hope in the future, my kids and I and other people will be successful in coming to know and have peace. Not the worldly peace, but peace of God. And I truly hope that. Thank you.